Perfect. Perfect.
Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. My name is Punza and if you're new here, welcome. So this is gonna be again the second time I'm coming back and showing up. By the way, I'm filming them on the same day. That's why the hairstyle and everything else that you're seeing looks the same. But in any case, also if you've not seen what I'm talking about, please do at the end of this video check out the video that I did the last time, and I do hope that you guys are gonna be enjoying this and that one, and also my podcast episodes, which you can find on Spotify and Punzo's View. If you want to listen to some of them, I'm still trying to find a way where I can upload some of my podcasts and stuff on there so that you guys can enjoy that, as you're driving or doing whatever the heck you're doing. So in any case, guys, let's get into it. Okay, so today's topic, right? I just want to talk about the education system in South Africa, from primary level to tertiary level. I just want to have a discussion, our experiences and everything. This will include also the bullying and everything that happened, and just some opinions that I have when it comes to that system and everything. So in any case, let's get into it. So first and foremost, so I've already basically I went to primary school, secondary school, and tertiary. In right now it's about tertiary education is about 4 places that I've been to, which is I've spoken about it. I went to UCT, went to Univen, went to a culinary school, and also now I'm at UNISA. So I have experience with 4 different places. Then with schools, I had attended school primary, 2 different schools. Then secondary, it was on one school, the one that is in the news for everything that's going wrong, Beauty Secondary School. I'm an alumni of that school, and yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things happening in that school which is like but let's just talk about the education system, right? I'm not gonna lie. Not I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know like what I can say about this whole entire situation, but is it just me, or do you guys feel like the standard of learning in this country is just on the ground? Like in South Africa, it's on the ground. Because what I'm talking about is like it's like, the pass rate for kids who are in secondary school is 30%, I think, in mathematics, and I think some sciences, and then 40% in some languages. At a point, the government, because they wanted to get a high pass rate, ne, they wanted to make it 20%. The ancient Tekas of the world wanted to make it 20% for students to. But I don't know what universities they're going into. When you get 20%, I don't know which university is going to take you, but that's what they wanted to do to our future, to the future generation, right? To the future minds of this world. They said, if you don't know 80% of your work, it is fine. Like that's what they wanted. This is what they wanted. I think it failed somewhere. So, but the one that actually ended up passing, right, was QP. Now, what QP is, a child fails twice on their second failure. I think, was it on their second or their third, the third time that they fail, or the second time that they fail, but I think it was the second time that they fail, they get pushed to the next grade. Now help me, like, does that make sense to you? Listen, this person could not finish grade 9, but because they couldn't finish grade 9 and they're going to be repeating it for the third time, you said, nah, move to grade 10, even though you didn't understand anything in grade 9. Move to grade 10. Tell me, how does, just so that in schools it can look like the kids are doing well. Now I'm basically knew someone who had failed a grade, ne, repeated it, but after they repeated it, they were more motivated to actually do better in the next round. Now, is it every student that goes through that? No, not every student is gonna be able to do that. Not every student is gonna be able to be not every student is gonna take a failing like that, right? But at a certain point, the person might actually go like, you know what, maybe I do need to improve, or maybe there are certain things maybe in the syllabus or something that maybe the teachers should be focusing more on that the students are not getting. Maybe the students need to work harder. All of those things are right, and all of those things are quite literally correct. But in any case, so like that's the situation, which tell me that this is not setting up again the because mind you, this is happening a lot more in like private public schools, which a lot of like black colored kids are going to. So it feels like there is a lot of disadvantages being put into two specific communities, what the way I'm seeing it. Ne? And mind you, when I'm saying this, I know that there are public schools that white kids are going to, but most of these public schools used to be white public schools, which still have systems in them that are still. If you look at schools in the cities versus schools you go to find in rural areas, ne, it, it ain't right. The situation in those places is not right. You know, another thing that I felt like didn't make sense as to why it was moved from the syllabus, ne? Sports, some arts and culture things, cooking, like homework classes, and sewing, like you know things where you use your hands to do all of those classes, and they were optional to you if you wanted them, right? Like I don't know why those were moved. Like you know what they did now. You go from primary school, ne, where you're doing primary schools to like the first phase of secondary school. I forgot what it's called, but it is grade 8 and 9. You have 10 subjects that you're doing, right? And we're able to cope with that. Then you get to grade 10. They say choose between science and maths or history or economics. You need to choose between or agriculture. You need to choose between those which ones you want to do, right? And then from there you go from 10 to 7 subjects. It's like they think we are dumber. The higher we go, I think they think that the dumber we are. Because like, for me, it doesn't make sense. Like, why technology doesn't go on to the next grades doesn't make sense to me. Um, why certain things have to be broken off into certain sections and stuff like that. When you go to certain private schools or some other schools, you find that they're doing 14 subjects, 15 subjects. You know, like they're doing actual more subjects which are going to be beneficial to them, because in most cases they know exactly what they're going to do when they get to university. But me, I've still forgot it here and then figure out that there is more than just science, or there is more than just a Greek or history or economics. There is actually a lot more that can be in that there's a lot more that the world has to offer other than those, what is it, 5 options that you're given in schools. Most especially I'm gonna be talking about the area that I'm in, which is like Venda, Limpopo, that I'm actually located in, right? So for me, it just didn't make sense. It feels like we're dumbing down everything. Now, listen, I'm not gonna hang out and talk much about like the syllabus and everything, even though I think it's such nonsense. And by the way, you do realize that a lot of I think we went from OBE to N something to a new one today, and a lot of these systems, right? This our South African government went to like Europe, picked up certain like syllabuses that were being taught that did not work out, and those countries said this does not work, and we said, yeah, we like the reject, give it to us and we're gonna practice something that's already been proven not to work. And then they came to South Africa and gave us those nonsense. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I do not like that woman, Angie Mseka, like, because she does not, I feel like she does not have the best interest of students at heart. She does not have, I think her aim is that get as many people passing as possible, even if it is not beneficial, like even if they're not passing the right way. Like there's the whole program where they said like grade 12s are writing their exams like tertiary students, right, where you qualify to write some and you qualify not to write some. And I'm like, you know, in a university setting, right, if I don't qualify to write for, like, let's say I was doing five courses, right, and I don't qualify for 2 out of those 5, right, meaning I qualified for 3. Those 3 can be prerequisite for something that I can do in second year. Let's say I'm in first year, that I can do in second year. Meaning that I can still do some courses in second year, but also be repeating the 2 that I have left. But a grade 12 student who has 7 subjects and only qualifies, let's say, for 5, and then the other 2 they do not qualify for, right? This simply means that that child cannot go off to anything. They cannot go off to university. They cannot go off to anything. They just have to literally wait the whole entire year. I think it's half of a year, because I think they write in June and then again in December. They have to wait again for them to be able to go back and write those courses, like those subjects. And that is not how a school system works. You go out with a certificate with what you have, like like if it's 7, then you have all 7 of those things, and then you have to go out. Because basically what you're saying is that person is gonna be at home or something, which if because they're not being taught in class, most of those students are not focusing on reading, and they like funny enough when they say like these guys are gonna come back and write the exams ne, these very same people have topics that have changed in ways that have changed. Like now, they have paper one to paper two for mathematics, right? Before you would have like for grade 12, let's say, right? Before you would have I think it's geometry on its own, but now it has been put into paper one and paper two. But for somebody who I think passed grade 12 in 2011, 2012. I think in 2013, I'm not sure. I think we were like, they were in grade, yeah, I think 2013 was the last cut off. The syllabus was different from what it is now. And then I think even now, there's things that have changed again between the few years that have just passed now. So sometimes I just look at it and I'm just like, this government, to be quite honest with you, does not care about the students, most especially the poor communities. Like for instance, can you imagine now during this whole pandemic, right? Like when it started, like people didn't know how bad it was going to be, but we knew it was bad. And she was just like, when schools were like, we need to close, she was like, no, push it one more week. Masks were not really amended at that time. We did not know how this virus is going to affect a lot more people. We were still trying to figure those things out. But the thing was, like, what a lot of people were saying is close down schools because it is not necessary to endanger both the teachers and the students and everybody else that works in that institution, right? But Njim Tsaka kept on going, like, no, I don't want schools to close. And, like, by the way, some people were theorizing allegedly that it is because her husband had a tender for the feeding schemes. There are feeding schemes in certain schools in South Africa where, again, it's a feeding scheme. Kids get food in the schools, which by the way, that's a topic on its own, where government doesn't actually send sufficient funds to schools to buy things. Like the things that they're saying they're getting for schools is like schools actually have to end up supplementing most of that money because this government is not actually releasing enough money for this to actually work, which is a good initiative because there's a lot of kids in schools that do not have food, and at home there isn't enough food for the household, and there isn't enough food for the kids at all. So then it was a necessity and it was a good plan. But the problem is, again, with our government, implementing something is not their strong suit, and actually evaluating something is not their strong suit. So Yena, she wanted the schools to remain open because she wanted her husband to still be getting that tender, allegedly. Let me use the word allegedly. So you had that situation, and Yena, like I remember when she wanted the schools to be open, like when we're still in the thick of COVID, when we're still in the thick of it, and she wanted schools to open, and she was talking on some things of like she was go like, no, I like people are like, you have no idea, you are so removed from what's happening, most especially in rural areas, where if you're talking about sanitation, let's be honest, there's certain toilet systems, the sanitary system is not good. The schools mostly do not have money. And by the way, when she kept on saying that in the beginning, she kept on saying that enough equipment is being sent and everything. What she was making the schools do, right? There's a budget a particular school has every single year, right? And in that budget, it's the same money that they might hire cleaners or something, because students are not allowed to pay fees in schools now. In certain schools, I think mostly public schools, there's schools where they're not allowed to be like telling students to pay a certain fee, and they use that money to pay for certain things as a school that they require. And now what was happening was, during the pandemic, Angie made it seem like government was providing the sanitization, the masks, the gloves, or the little system to check temperature and everything, but she wasn't. They actually were not. Every single school, even the ones that did not even have enough money, had to buy those things themselves, and they had to keep replenishing them themselves from a budget that doesn't even exist. They had to find money in the individual schools, and this woman was making it seem like she was just and he said they were just finding the money and giving it to the schools, and then the schools. And by the way, every time, like, it was such a joke. Every time she was like, oh, we're going to schools to see if this system is working or not. She went to like private schools and schools that good schools that had money. Visit the public schools that are in rural areas and tell me that those schools were ready to open at that time. I still don't even think they were ready to open now, because even now there isn't enough money to maintain this, and the government doesn't even want to maintain this. And to top it all off, they decided not to give teachers an increment. Like, they didn't give government people increments. Of course, they probably gave themselves money, because why not? If you stole 500 billion rands, and your health minister also goes in and steals 250 million, so nothing is beyond you people to give yourselves a raise and tell South African citizens that there is no money for them, even though you just stole money that was meant for them, and they're gonna have to pay back, because it's a debt incurred by South African people now, that they stole and have the money, and they're never gonna be held accountable for what they did. Like, some things I just to them, like just make it make sense to me. Like, just help me understand how a government like this truly, like, it does not care for its people. Does not care. Education doesn't care for the students, for the teachers, for the principals, for anybody for that matter. And we just basically stuck with this. I also said I was going to talk about tertiary, but you know that Bladen Zimandi, that guy doesn't actually listen to tertiary students. He doesn't care. It's his way or the highway. That's why he had no problem basically threatening students with police presence in universities. And he allowed universities also to use that. And the police that were involved in that, I think they're such BS, because they use intimidation to make students not protest or anything. I remember when I was at Univen and we were attending classes and we had such a huge police presence. It basically was like if you're seeing anything or documentaries from way back when during apartheid, and you had the army or the police or whatever it was and during the apartheid time come in and basically be moving around in those big cars with their guns and everything, basically threatening or scaring the people not to do anything. That's basically what the tertiary institution, our Minister of Higher Education, and the South African Police participated in, was intimidating students so that they do not protest in the university level. And that was that they found that to be okay. Like, the government, like the bloody idiot that doesn't listen to students, thought that was okay. Like, that was something to do, and that was something that makes sense. Students were asking for something that was really real. There's a lot of kids who are sitting at home not being able to get qualifications because they cannot afford it. As you're sitting down, you cannot afford, and people go like, NSFAS. Yeah, I get NSFAS, but like, that's a loan. That's not a bursary, that's a loan that you still have to pay back. I have debt even before I can even work. They make it seem like it is a bursary or something. Like, I think now they might have turned into a bursary, but for some of us, I'm still unemployed and I cannot pay off the debt. And what apparently NSFAS did, which I don't even think is legal because I signed with them, they sold my debt to a debt collecting company. I'm still unemployed, and the contract I signed with them was that I will pay back when I have work. I am not employed, so I cannot pay back the money. Like, I don't know. I feel like the tertiary part needs a video of its own for me to even talk about, because that one, there is even more problems in those situations and institutions that I don't even. Univen on its own, the amount of corruption and the money that's being eaten, and the government knows, and everybody knows, politicians and everybody knows what's happening in that university, and they act like nothing is happening. That's a topic on its own. Now, when it comes to secondary level, or like primary, what is it called? Basic education system, the basic education system. I think another problem is, I don't know if y'all were seeing that whole video of the bullying that was happening at Mbili, right? Which is not the only, like, I'm sure when I was going to school, there was bullying that was happening, and there was a lot of fights that happened. I remember there's just I remember seeing a kid, most usually between in groups where there are boys involved, there's a lot of bullying that happens in there, and nobody really does anything about it. The adults, and nobody does anything about it, and it's just led to be as is. So what my thing was, that I actually wanted to talk about was, I wanted to talk about why don't we get a psychologist, a therapist, or social worker into each individual schools? Like, there's something that I saw when I was watching movies in America, where they had a psychologist or whatever in the schools, I don't know how that system actually works in RIL in America, but like when I saw that, I was like, that's something that would be definitely helpful. Like, listen, talking to a teacher, you might feel comfortable with doing that, but in most cases, you're afraid to tell the teacher because you're afraid that when they go to the staff room, they're gonna tell everybody your business. They're gonna tell any and everybody your business. That's what you're afraid of, and then the next thing you're hearing it on, like you're hearing it everywhere that, oh, this person has this problem and this problem. Which, to be quite honest, as a student, we have had things that a kid had told a teacher, but suddenly the staff room knew and the kids in the school knew exactly what was happening. Which, this is where I'm like, we need actual psychologists who are legally required not to share that information with anybody else. Like, I don't know what it's called in South Africa. I don't know if it's a HIPAA in South Africa as well, but yeah, they're not supposed to disclose your medical information with anybody else. So I feel like that is at least a sacred place that a child can go, because in schools, like I feel like sometimes when it comes to like adults, like us, sometimes when we look at kids we think, they should not have problems, but to be quite honest, you were once young, you had issues as well. And there are also kids who have mental illnesses and other forms of other disabilities that they could have, or just problems at home and situations that a child might need your advice on. A child being like this situation, the case that's coming up now of the alleged rape, right? You have a situation where that kid, if they just had a platform, a place where they could have gone and spoken about the fact that a teacher was taking advantage of them while they were in school, it could have been allegedly, I think I need to use that word, because the case is still going to court. I believe her. I believe the situation, but the case is still going to court, so I'm not gonna speak on it. So basically, if I feel like if you had, like when the kid, the kid Rufuno ended up committing suicide, or any other kid in schools that end up committing suicide, right? Like for me, when I was in school, I was struggling a lot with depression and suicide. And if I just had a place or a person that I could have gone and spoken to, who was in school, that I knew was a safe place, and I could have gone and told them what was going on, one, they might have gotten me help sooner, and two, I would have had somewhere where I could actually tell someone without fearing the fact that this will get back to people I don't want them knowing, basically. So I feel like that should be something that should be, I think, I don't know if they actually look into it, but I do think that in schools, there's a lot of kids that went and did social work and psychology. I think they were being funded. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of them that are sitting at home who don't have work right now that you could probably use and maybe re-educate them and all of those things, and you can actually use in these different schools. If a school is big, you get more. If a school is small, you still have to use more than one person. Maybe 2-3 people should be there to be consulting and everything. And because there's so many situations, like so many stories that you hear about what's happening to these poor children, and they have no place to go to tell. Like, they have no one to tell about what is happening, and for some of them, it gets so bad that I don't know, man. There's a lot of kids that are struggling through something, and if we had psychologists in schools, I think that would definitely help a lot, a lot. Now on this subject of mental illness or learning, or just anything basically when it comes to like a child's brain or anything like that, another thing that I feel like it's lacking in our South African schools, ne? What is lacking in our South African schools is more knowledge on learning disabilities, including in Black communities, because every time sometimes I hear them going like, no, this student cannot even understand this. There's like somebody wants to use the word stupid, or they're not even good or whatever, and they shouldn't even be doing this. I start going like, listen, for one, I never really hear people in this country talking about, like, I'm not saying every place, I'm just taking about like mostly in the area that I'm living in. I've never hear if somebody goes like is struggling. I'll go like, first and foremost, one, you should get your child tested for dyslexia or ADHD or any of the learning disabilities as well that are out there that your child might be struggling with. So I don't know, man. It's something that I'm just like, there needs to be more on. And also, I think this should be a topic on its own, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna record a whole topic on its own, especially when it comes to schools. So guys, if you wanna listen to that, you're gonna wait until the Friday release. Cause am I saying the Friday? Am I right? Or am I saying is it gonna be Wednesday? It's gonna be Wednesday or Friday. I'm not quite sure when it's gonna be. At the moment, I'm not gonna do cooking videos quite like at the moment, cause funding is a little it's a little tied up. We don't have the money for that yet. So I think the video that's gonna be coming up, I'm gonna release a video on this Friday. Then next week Monday, this one is the one that's gonna be coming out. So Wednesday I'm gonna release the next one that I'm gonna talk about, and there's gonna be another one on Friday as well. I think maybe I should also talk about the Teshurun. I'm not quite sure when I'll do that, but I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm sure right now it's already at 30 minutes or something, and I don't want to take that much time of that much of your time. So instead of just waiting on it, let's just end it here. And in the next video, I'll definitely be talking about mental illnesses in the Black community, plus learning problems in secondary school or in schools just in general, and us focusing on it at least. So guys, without further ado, thank you for coming to watch my video. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, bye.